Welcome to the DocTalks Podcast. I'm your host, Mandy Fields. I'm here to ask medical experts the questions you might have about diseases and conditions, from heart health to dementia and everything in between. Join me for a conversation where we get right to the points you need to know to navigate Canadian medicine and hospital healthcare. Hi, I'm Mandy Fields, and welcome to the DocTalks Podcast, brought to you by St. Joseph's Healthcare London. We're back today with another episode of PatientTalks, the spin-off of our show focusing on the patient experience, to talk about being diagnosed with breast cancer under the age of 40 and the unique challenges that come with that. This is the second episode in a 4-part series on breast cancer. Last episode, we spoke with Jenna Dias about her breast cancer journey. If you haven't listened to that episode, I highly recommend you do. We had a great discussion on just how vulnerable and life-changing the journey from diagnosis to treatment can be. This week, Jenna is back in the studio and joined by Katie Pollock. Katie is a breast cancer survivor living in Toronto, Ontario. Originally from Sault Ste. Marie, Katie moved to Toronto in 2011 and works in cyber insurance. Katie was diagnosed with stage 3 triple-negative breast cancer in 2018 when she was 30 years old. Now in full remission, Katie supports women navigating the challenges of breast cancer at a young age. Beyond her advocacy, Katie is an avid cyclist and enjoys attending concerts and sporting events. Thank you for joining me today, Jenna and Katie, and my apologies for being emotional right off the hop, but you're both so young, and I have a daughter who's 25 years old, but enough about me and why I'm emotional already. Katie, let's start with you. Can you walk us through the beginning? And how did your breast cancer journey start?
Yeah, so I was 30 years old. I was playing soccer and I got elbowed really hard in the chest and I immediately felt a lump. But I was like, oh no, that can't be anything. Like, I just got elbowed, so it's going to go away. And I waited a couple months and it actually felt like it was starting to get bigger. And so I was like, there's something wrong here. Like, I need to get it checked out. And I was with one of my girlfriends in Toronto and I asked her, I was like, can you feel this? And she immediately started crying. And she's like, we are going to the ER right now. So she took me to the ER. We went in there. And the doctors initially were saying like, oh, it's probably just an infection. Like, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. We can give you some antibiotics. And my friend Kelly actually advocated for me. And she's like, have you felt that? She's like, that is not an infection. And so the doctor at the hospital was like, okay, we can run some tests, like an ultrasound, but we can't do that at the emergency. So we'll schedule you in for an appointment tomorrow. So the next day I took the day off work. Because it was like late by the time I got out of the ER and they hadn't called me. So I eventually called them near the end of the day and they're like, oh, we were just about to call you to schedule you in for an ultrasound the next morning. So I go into the hospital, they do an ultrasound, the radiologist comes in and she's like, I don't usually talk to people right away, but this is really concerning to me. It has its own blood supply. You don't have a family doctor right now. My family doctor had retired. So she's like, I'm going to call this surgeon, see if he'll take you on as a patient, which he said he would. So she's like, I don't want you to leave till we do a mammogram. So we went through, we did a mammogram. And then she was like, okay, I don't want you to leave here until we do a biopsy of it. So within like a 4-hour period, I had an ultrasound, a mammogram, and a biopsy done. And then I met with my oncologist a couple days later. I met with the new surgeon. My parents were coming from Southern Ontario to visit me and they were supposed to come on the Thursday. And I called them. I told them what was happening. My mom was like, oh, it's probably nothing, but we'll come with you to the appointment. And so they came a day early and came with me to see this surgeon. And he said, it's already been confirmed it's cancer. We just don't know the staging or the type yet. I want to do a lymph node biopsy. And he scheduled me in the next morning. And it was just like a whirlwind of everything happening. Like, I think I was starting chemo within a month.
Within a month of that first walking in that 4 hours, everything happening.
Yeah. And in between that, I actually went on a trip to Nashville. So I had a trip planned with some girlfriends and I told them about it. And he's like, we don't know what's in store for you. So we want you to go on this trip. And he's like, we're going to wait and do the bone scan until you get back. And so I had like a week in between where I did go on that trip, and then it all started right after I got back.
And how was the trip? And so I know people can't see us right now, but I don't have Kleenex, Katie. I'm going to have to use my shirt or my tears. I know your story is really getting to me. And I'm sorry about that. I hope that it doesn't affect you. But you go on this trip to Nashville. Were you able to freely go, or was it a big cloud of concern?
Honestly, a huge cloud. I was like, I don't know what is happening right now, but I'm just going to try and enjoy myself as much as I can. It definitely wasn't one of the better trips. Like I had a good time, but I knew what was in store when I came back.
And then do you want to walk us through what happened when you got back then?
Yeah, when I got back, they did the bone scan, they did an MRI. They found out the type, so it was triple negative. It was considered grade 3, meaning very, very aggressive. And they considered it stage 3 because of the size of the tumor. It was 4.6 centimeters, but it actually didn't spread to my lymph nodes.
It did. Oh, that's great.
Usually when they consider stage 3, it means they've spread beyond like the breast tissue into the lymph nodes. But because of the size of it, that's why they considered it still to be stage 3.
I see. Okay. Can you explain what triple negative means?
Yeah, so there's different types of breast cancer. You can have hormone positive. There's 3 things that make up breast cancer. There's the HER2 protein, there is estrogen, and there's progesterone. And most breast cancer, I would say, is hormone positive. But triple negative tests negative for all 3 of those, meaning they do not know what's caused it. They don't have enough research on it. So typically, it's probably the scariest diagnosis when you get the breast cancer diagnosis because there's not as much research on it. So I started with 8 rounds of chemo, and then I had a bilateral mastectomy. And then a month after that, I did 25 rounds of radiation and then 2 more surgeries to start my reconstruction process. So typically, triple negative responds well to chemo, but not always. And in my case, I was fortunate. I actually had a full response to chemo, meaning chemo actually got rid of all of my cancer. And then everything else that I did afterwards was preventative.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's great. I'd like to pull Jenna into the conversation right now. And Jenna, welcome back. Nice to see you and hear your voice again.
Yeah, good to be back. That's why I actually wanted to bring Katie on as well, because even her just talking about her different staging and diagnosis, it's like the same but different in a lot of ways. So we had very similar stages in a sense. Like she was talking about lymph node and non, like mine was lymph node, but I had targets. So I was estrogen and HER2. Mine was like a weird one. But we had pretty much AKD, I think, aside from the fact that I had HER2. So we pretty much had the exact same treatment plan and also had both complete response. So Katie was diagnosed obviously like 4 years before me. So she was kind of my rock during especially the beginning. And so that's why we will get into this. But breast cancer is such a community, but it was nice to actually know somebody personally as well.
I have a question. It might sound like obvious, but for both of you, and Jenna, if you can remind us your age, but I'll pose a question to Katie first. So Katie, you were 30 when you heard the words, you have cancer. What was that like?
Honestly, I didn't know anyone my age that went through breast cancer, but I actually have a girlfriend that went through thyroid cancer when she was 26. So we supported her through that. She was stage 1 thyroid cancer. She beat it. But in terms of breast cancer, like I didn't know anyone else that young. I was like, how is this happening to me? Like usually that's when you're older, like in your 40s at least, like 40s, 50s, later. I had a girlfriend whose mother went through it, but she was in her like 50s. It was terrifying. And especially after the triple negative diagnosis, like it was definitely scary. But right from the get-go, I just had a positive mindset. And I was like, you know what? This is just a blip in my radar. I'm going to get through this. And my parents came to Southern Ontario and supported me through everything. I was still working. I went for walks with my mom every day after chemo.
Wow. Jenna, how old were you?
So I was 34. Katie and I are actually the exact same age, but I was 34 when I was diagnosed. So still quite young. Katie was a lot younger than me. Can't even imagine even starting my 30s that way. It's all relative. It's more just Katie was just a lot younger. And I don't know, just coming out of your 20s and that's how you start your 30s is pretty wild. And that's coming from someone who is also pretty young.
Now, part of the Patient Talks series is to inform and educate and share. And I'm curious about that in terms of the two of you being childhood friends, both being diagnosed with cancer under the age of 40. Do you want to share a little bit about why you wanted to do this?
Yeah, so I actually, obviously, as we talked last episode, this is really important for me. And Katie has always been also such a big advocate and has been somebody that I've leaned on over the past few years going through this, and she's such a strong person and very independent herself and in even a bigger city than I'm in. So I just knew she would be such a great woman to talk about her experience, especially being triple negative, as Katie touched on. People don't realize that triple negative, it's difficult to navigate. Like you don't know what to even take or extra treatments to do. And so you're really just hoping for the best and being positive and hoping that the stuff that you are being given by your oncologist are going to work. And so I just really knew that her story would resonate with people because it's not every day, especially in your 30s, hearing something like you have cancer, but let alone also having a treatment plan around triple negative.
Thanks for that, Jenna. And then was that partly why then you wanted to bring these conversations forward? So if anyone else was going through this under the age of 40?
Oh, yes.
And so as a result of the cancer and treatment, are you already in menopause or perimenopause?
So that is where hormone positive and triple negative differ. So like triple negative's really scary in the beginning. If you beat it, you're not really on any residual therapy after. I think they're kind of changing it. There's some drugs that people can take, but I'm not on any hormones like suppressants. And I got my period back within like 4 months of finishing chemo. So I have no perimenopause or menopause symptoms at all. Like I still get all my periods regularly.
And then for you, Jenna, are you in menopause?
Yeah, so I've been in menopause for 3 years, actually.
Do either of you have children?
No, we're both very much single right now.
And is that something you want? Would you like to have kids?
So I was always on the fence about whether, and I always flip-flopped back and forth between, do I want kids, do I not want kids? And when they gave me this diagnosis initially, they said, okay, if you want to freeze your eggs, it's covered through OHIP because of what you're going through. But there was a caveat. They said I would have had to wait until I got my next period. So I would have had to wait a month before starting chemo. And they just dropped this news that I was stage 3. And I'm like, well, what if I wait a month and it spreads further? So at that time, I thought, well, if I want children bad enough, I'm willing to adopt.
I understand that. Yeah, because it's like go time. Let's do this. Let's kill this. What's in my body?
Yeah. And now it turns out like I still get my periods and I probably could still have kids.
Yeah, when I was first diagnosed, mine was actually a little bit different. I actually had a month to decide if I wanted to freeze my eggs prior, but that's also because I was part estrogen positive, so that's probably why. But similar to Katie, I just wanted to fight this as fast as possible, and I didn't really want to go through a whole other procedure because, like, freezing your eggs, I've never done it, but, like, I'm sure if you ask women, like, it's no joke. It's a whole thing that goes into that. And like Katie mentioned, you just are being given a diagnosis of cancer in your 30s, and you're kind of like, okay, one thing at a time. I'm going to pick saving my life first. So I just decided to forego with that. And I don't really know if I can have kids now. I'm actually in the middle of trying to get my ovaries removed because I have to be in menopause for 7 years. And even after 7 years of diagnosis, I'm still really not considered in menopause. So to me, I don't know, I just don't need them if that's the case. That doesn't mean I wouldn't be able to be approved to have children. My oncologist said that women do take breaks from their hormone therapy and go on to have children. I personally just haven't thought that far ahead yet, but I feel the same as Katie. Like if it's meant to be, then I will figure it out, or I can adopt, or there's other ways. But I feel like the second I was diagnosed with cancer and I don't really have a use for my ovaries, it was just, I kind of let go of that future.
Thank you both for sharing. And I am curious then about intimacy as well, in terms of, do you feel the need to disclose? And you both indicated you're single. When I had my own tiny little journey with breast cancer and it came back benign, I'm married, but I had a lumpectomy and it was my right breast. And I didn't know how much of the breast they were going to take off during the lumpectomy. And I really got pretty sucked into my intimate life with my husband and just started like, oh my God, he's not going to find me attractive. Just wondered if you wanted to talk about that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I'm more self-conscious than anything. So Jenna and I both had bilateral mastectomies with reconstruction.
So what does that mean for those who don't know what that means?
So we had both of our breasts removed. And then we both did implant reconstruction. But for me, I also had, they removed my nipples too, because they said cancer can hide in your nipples. Jenna did a nipple sparing mastectomy, but I got nipple tattoos after. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, I'm very self-conscious. It takes me quite a while to be comfortable enough around a guy to be intimate, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Can I understand that?
Yeah, I think that's actually important, is the fact that breast cancer, and there might be other cancers that this affects, but breast cancer is pretty up there. It kind of affects so many things in a woman's life. Like, you lose your breast, you might lose your ovaries or be in menopause, you are dealing with losing your hair. You literally feel like being a woman is stripped away from you in multiple forms. And especially when you're young, as you mentioned, Mandy, if you are the ripe old age of 30, like Katie was, and then you're dealing with things that you have not gotten to yet, like have kids, got married, where I'm not saying it's any more or less or anything at all when you're in your 60s or anything, because I'm not taking away from anybody's experience. But when you are in your 30s, you kind of feel like you're just scratching the surface of those experiences in life, and especially if you're dead in the middle of your childbearing years. So I do feel like that plays a huge toll in breast cancer, whether it's survivorship or during treatment, because of everything that it does really take away and affect your life.
That's a lot of loss. Things that the two of you just cannot experience because of this devastating disease. And I'm wondering about your childhood, your friendship, and having each other to lean on. Has that been helpful as you navigate, your own personal losses, but knowing that you're not alone through this?
Well, Katie was the first person I called, actually, and I'm pretty sure she even remembers this day, because she actually told me that when I messaged her, I was looking for her. I was like, Katie, when you have a second, can you call me? It's really important. I just need to talk to you. And I never said anything about why. And she called me right away, and she's just like, I just had this gut feeling that you were going to tell me that you had breast cancer.
Wow.
I had that sinking feeling, because Jenna and I, we had mutual friends, but we weren't really friends ourselves yet. But we definitely grew closer after her diagnosis. We talked on the phone quite frequently.
Are you in a support group? And then are you experiencing other people's losses, that you're in recovery, you're through it, or are you fully through it?
I would say I'm fully through it at this point. I'm still part of the Rethink Breast Cancer Facebook group, and I still respond if people post in it. So I try and support them and advocate for them. And I still keep in contact with a couple of friends that were going through it at the same time as me that I met throughout treatment. And we still talk about it from time to time as well.
Jenna?
Well, I'm not even 3 years in remission, but I definitely am more back into life. I've been back to work full time for almost 2 years, and I didn't work during cancer, but I went back to work literally 3 weeks after radiation, going into the hospital. I don't know. I just didn't have the capacity to go into work and have no hair, and it was just a whole thing. But I would say I have a lot of community groups that I'm a part of.
Jenna, I'm glad that you touched on going to work, because that is, you both have successful careers from what I've understand in your bios. So navigating the workforce during this time, what was that like?
For me, I worked full time throughout it. I needed that for myself. I just needed to try and maintain as much of a normal life as I could. And my work at the time, they were fantastic. They're like, take whatever you need to take off. Like, if you want to work from home, here's a new laptop, work from home. If you find that you're not contributing anymore, then we'll have a discussion. I took a couple of weeks off after my mastectomy surgery and after my reconstruction surgery. And HR said, don't use this as vacation. This is not vacation. Just take it, which
Wow.
I really appreciated. All of my colleagues in the office got together and they got a really nice basket for me, and they donated money for me to get myself a new wig. So yeah, it was really, I actually left that employer about 4 years ago, and it was really hard because they just like, they treated me so well through that. I had a really hard time leaving.
Oh, I bet. I mean, it's such a vulnerable moment. And then where you go to work. Did you feel taken care of? That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, if I didn't feel up for working, I wouldn't have done it. But I was fortunate. I have a family friend that has a condo close to my work. So it was like a 5-minute walk to work. I had my parents there. They were making me all my meals. My mom did my laundry. So I would just go to work, go home, go for a walk, and pretty much go to bed every night.
You really need, and I love that Katie brought this up, like for any illness or cancer or anything that you're going through a part of life, you really need support, and that's in the workforce, outside of the workforce. You also need people to accommodate what you're going through.
And is there a magical time period in terms of when you're like how many years in remission?
Well, so for triple negative, they follow you really closely for the first year after because it has a really high probability of coming back, apparently, even if you have a mastectomy. But because of my age, I was like one of the youngest patients with my oncologist. She followed me for 5 years after. And anytime I feel like there's anything going on, I can give her a call and she'll book me in to do like blood work and scans. And so I felt well taken care of, but they've released me.
They released you. How about you, Jenna?
I think 5 years is a really common mark for a lot of people. For me, my oncologist, and I may have touched on this in the last episode, said my statistics does not change. It'll be the same for like the next 25 years just because of the strands that I've had. I only see her once a year now though. So I've graduated from like 3 months and then 6 months and then a year. But I still will get my shots for 7 years. And so that's why I'm still being followed with her for a year for now until we figure out what's next.
Wonderful. And we only have a little bit more time here, but I do want to know about the hair loss.
That was the worst part about it, everything.
It's the worst part. I'm so glad we have people to say that. It's horrible. It's horrible.
Lost all the eyelashes, like pretty much all the hair on my body except for my arm hair, I think, because it was so fine.
Wow.
See, mine was my eyebrows. Like, I had eyebrows until I went into surgery, which is so funny. The Portuguese genes, I tell you. But yeah, no, like hair everywhere. And then right before, I was 2 months out and going into just surgery, and I finally lost all my eyebrows.
And did it fall out in clumps, ladies, or what happened? Was it gradual?
Oh yeah, it falls out in clumps. Like, I remember my entire ponytail came out one time.
So for me, mine started falling out and I called up my hairstylist and she came over and cut it into a pixie cut for me. And then within 2 days, she came back over to shave it because it was falling out even faster.
Oh, wow. Did anyone shave their heads with you?
No.
No. I think that's only in movies.
Okay.
Yeah, mine was similar. I cut my hair because I've always also had very long hair. And then I would say by like chemo 2, I don't know when yours was, Katie. I feel like it was like 2 or 3. And it just, oh my God, it's everywhere. Like, you wake up eating your hair. Like, it's everywhere. You can't even go through the day. That at that point, you're just ready to shave it off.
Yeah, it was bad, but my hair came back with vengeance. It's still just exactly like it was. You can't see it right now because it's in a low bun, but it's very long right now.
Look at all this hair. So for our listeners, just so you know, these young women are gorgeous and there's a lot of hair. You guys could do a hair commercial. True.
I think, like, honestly, my biggest advice, because I'm, like I said, not as far out as Katie is in her journey, but my biggest advice is and this is up to you ladies, but I just didn't cut my hair. I just let it grow through the mullet phase. I wore the wig, or I got extension. Like, I just did everything I could to not cut it, because like this is like the last of my mullet. I don't know if you can kind of see. I just refused to cut it because I'm like, it's just going to prolong it. Where some people look really cute with their pixie cut and or they had chemo curls and different stuff. Mine was just not cute.
I didn't cut mine either, but I had the curly hair. So like I didn't really have the mullet phase. I was just wearing like a bunch of bows in my hair.
You know, watching the two of you talking and sharing your stories about hair loss and the smiles and how like it feels like as a listener and watching this unfold, the power of the support group and being able to share and talk to one another going through a similar journey. So my question is for people listening, what would you say to somebody who is diagnosed today, a young woman, and how that they should do their own self-advocacy and the support?
Yeah, definitely. Like, make sure you're checking your breasts on a regular basis. If you don't know how to do that, there's lots of videos out there that will show you how to do that. And if you find anything, advocate for yourself. They're starting to do mammograms at 40 now. I don't think that's young enough. I know that younger women have denser breast tissue though. So mammograms, I think that's one of the reasons why they don't do them younger. I think ultrasounds ultimately are better than mammograms in the beginning for detecting that. But if you find anything, like, push for them to test it, because it doesn't discriminate against age at all, as you see from myself and Jenna.
How about you, Jenna? Do you have any advice for a younger woman in terms of advocating for herself?
I agree with everything Katie said. Like, just self-advocate for yourself, know your body. Also been somebody who's been saying this multiple times about ultrasounds. The least that they can do is give you an ultrasound so you at least have a baseline of what your dense breasts look like. Never just let anybody tell you that, you know, a lump or a concern is nothing until you actually have concrete evidence to leading that it's nothing. And for those who are going through it now, or even in survivorship now, I think my biggest sentiment is that it's okay to mourn the loss of who you were before cancer, because to be completely honest, I feel like cancer has changed me, and like, you are a different person. For good, for bad, for everything, because it was a huge life adjustment. And I'm sure Katie could agree, like, you are a different person. And I think it's okay that you're different now. And there's lots that can be good about it. And that's why I think we're even on this podcast, is a lot of people don't feel comfortable sharing their story or asking questions, posting anything and whatnot, because they don't either want people to know their business or they're ashamed of it, and they don't know how to ask questions.
Thanks for that, Jenna. That's it for this episode of the DocTalks Podcast. Thanks for listening, and join us next time when we'll continue our conversation on what's new and relevant in the world of Canadian medicine and hospital healthcare. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at St. Joseph's London, or visit sjhc.london.on.ca/podcast. Until then, stay healthy.